The emergency signal came at 3 in the morning. Ship time. Lieutenant Yuna was sleeping in her small cabin when the alarm pulled her from her dreams. She sat up quickly, her heart beating fast. Red lights flashed on her ceiling. "All hands to stations," the ship's voice said through the speakers. "Unknown vessel detected. Possible distress signal." Yuna pulled on her uniform and ran to the bridge. The Terran vessel Starfall was a rescue ship. It traveled through the outer sectors of known space, looking for ships in trouble. Most of the time, they found nothing. Sometimes they found broken ships with no survivors. But sometimes, they found people who needed help. Captain Do-hoon stood at the center of the bridge. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been doing this job for 20 years. "What do we have?" Yuna asked as she took her position. "Cargo ship," Do-hoon said. "Velkin registration. It stopped transmitting 2 days ago." "The distress signal is automated." Yuna felt her stomach tighten. Velkin ships were rare in this sector. The Velkins were a wolf-like species from a cold planet near the edge of the galaxy. They kept to themselves and did not trust other species easily. If a Velkin ship was in trouble here, something very bad must have happened. "How far?" she asked. 40 minutes at full speed, the navigator said. His name was Jinho, and he was young, barely 25 years old. "Take us in," Captain Do-hoon ordered. The Starfall moved through the darkness of space. Yuna watched the screen as they got closer. The cargo ship appeared slowly. It was a medium-sized vessel, designed to carry goods between planets. But something was wrong. Parts of the ship were damaged. There were holes in the hull, and no lights were on inside. "Life signs?" Do-hoon asked. The medical officer, a woman named Hana, checked her equipment. "Faint. Very faint. I'm reading 3. Maybe 4 signals." "They're weak." "Pirates?" Jinho suggested. "Possible," Do-hoon said. "But those holes don't look like weapon damage. They look like something hit the ship from inside." Yuna studied the damage. The captain was right. The holes were pushed outward, not inward. Whatever had damaged this ship had come from inside it. "I'll lead the boarding team," Yuna said. Do-hoon looked at her for a moment. Then he nodded. "Be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." Yuna gathered her team. There were 4 of them total. She put on her spacesuit and checked her weapon. It was a standard rescue pistol, designed to stop threats without causing too much harm. She hoped she would not need to use it. The airlock connected to the Velkin ship with a soft sound. The door opened, and darkness greeted them. Yuna turned on her helmet light and stepped inside. The smell hit her first. It was the smell of smoke and something else. Something organic. She moved forward slowly, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Stay close," she told her team. They moved through the corridors. The ship was silent, except for the sound of broken systems making weak noises. Sparks flew from damaged wires. Water dripped from pipes in the ceiling. Whatever had happened here, it had happened fast. They found the first body in the cargo hold. It was a Velkin adult, male, lying face down on the floor. Yuna knelt beside him and checked for life signs. There were none. He had been dead for at least a day. "Over here," one of her team members called. They found more bodies, 5 in total, all adults. The cargo hold was destroyed. Containers were broken open, their contents scattered everywhere, and in the center of the room, there was a large hole in the floor. "What is this?" Jinho asked through the communication system. Yuna looked down into the hole. It went deep into the ship, cutting through multiple levels. Something had broken through from below. "I don't know," she said. "But we still have life signs somewhere on this ship." They continued searching. The signals led them to the upper level, to what looked like a living quarters area. The door was locked from inside. Yuna used her tools to open it. The room inside was small and dark. It had been a nursery, she realized. There were small beds and toys scattered on the floor. And in the corner, huddled together under a blanket, she found them. 3 small creatures, cubs, Velkin cubs. They were tiny, barely bigger than earth puppies. Their fur was silver and white, and their eyes were huge with fear. When Yuna's light fell on them, they made small sounds of terror and pressed closer together. Yuna felt her heart break. "I found them," she said softly into her communicator. "3 cubs. They're alive." "Cubs?" Captain Dohun's voice was surprised. "Velkin cubs?" "Yes, sir. They're scared, but they look healthy. I'm bringing them back." Yuna moved slowly toward the cubs. They growled at her, but the growls were weak and afraid. She knelt down and made her body as small as possible. She did not want to scare them more. "It's okay," she said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cubs did not understand her words, but they seemed to understand her tone. One of them, the smallest, stopped growling and tilted its head. It had bright golden eyes that studied her carefully. Yuna reached out her hand, palm up, showing she had no weapon. The small cub sniffed the air. Then, very slowly, it crept forward. It touched its nose to her fingers. Something passed between them in that moment. Yuna did not know what it was, but she felt it deep in her chest. A connection. A promise. "I've got you," she whispered. "You're safe now." She gathered the cubs in her arms. They were cold and shaking. She wrapped them in the blanket and held them against her chest. They were so light, so fragile. She could feel their small hearts beating fast against her body. "Lieutenant," one of her team members said. Yuna nodded. She carried the cubs back through the corridors, back to the airlock, back to the starfall. The whole time, they did not make a sound. They just pressed against her, holding on with their tiny claws. Back on the starfall, the medical team was waiting. Hana tried to take the cubs from Yuna to examine them. But as soon as Yuna started to let go, the cubs began to cry. The sound was high and desperate, like nothing Yuna had ever heard. "Wait," Yuna said. She pulled them back to her chest, and the crying stopped. The cubs settled against her, their eyes closing. Hana looked at her with a strange expression. "They've imprinted on you." "What does that mean?" "It means they think you're their mother now. If you leave them, they might die from the stress." Yuna looked down at the 3 small creatures in her arms. They were sleeping now, their breathing slow and peaceful. She thought about protocol. She thought about rules. She thought about everything she was supposed to do. Then she made a decision. "I'll keep them in my quarters," she said, "until we figure out what to do." Captain Dohun raised an eyebrow. "Lieutenant, that's against regulations." "I know, sir, but I can't let them die." The captain studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Fine, but you're responsible for them." "All of them." Yuna nodded. She carried the cubs to her cabin and laid them gently on her bed. They curled up together, still sleeping, still holding on to each other. She watched them for a long time, wondering what she had gotten herself into. She did not know it then, but her life had just changed forever. The first week was the hardest. The cubs would not eat. They would not drink. They just lay on Yuna's bed, crying softly and shaking. The ship's doctor, Hana, came to check on them every day. She gave them medicine and fluids through small tubes, but nothing seemed to help. "They're grieving," Hana said on the 4th day. "They lost their family, their pack." Velkins are social creatures. Without a pack, cubs this young usually don't survive. Yuna sat on the edge of her bed, watching the 3 small bodies. She had named them. The biggest one, a male with dark silver fur, she called Tay. The middle one, also male, with lighter fur and a black spot on his ear, she called Minho. The smallest, a female with pure white fur and golden eyes, she called Bora. "What can I do?" Yuna asked. Hana shook her head. "I don't know." In Velkin culture, the mother stays with her cubs constantly for the first 3 months. She never leaves them. She feeds them, cleans them, protects them. Without that constant presence, Yuna thought about this. She had duties on the ship. She had work to do. But when she looked at the cubs, she knew what she had to do. I'll stay with them, she said. You can't just. I'll talk to the captain. I'll do my reports from here, whatever it takes. Captain Do-hun was not happy about the arrangement. But when Yuna explained the situation, he agreed to let her work from her quarters for a while. The other crew members helped cover her physical duties. They understood. They had all seen the cubs. They all wanted them to survive. Yuna spent every moment with the cubs. She slept beside them. She talked to them constantly, even though they could not understand her words. She held them against her chest so they could feel her heartbeat. She kept her room warm, the way their home planet would have been. On the 7th day, Bora opened her eyes and looked at Yuna. Really looked at her. Then she made a small sound, different from the crying. It was a chirp. A question. Yes, Yuna said, smiling. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Bora chirped again. Then she crawled forward and pressed her nose against Yuna's hand. Her small tongue came out and licked Yuna's fingers. It was the first sign of trust. After that, things got better. Slowly, the cubs began to eat. Yuna had to order special food from the ship's supplies. Velkin cubs needed high-protein meat, cut into very small pieces. She fed them by hand, one tiny bite at a time. Tay was the first to eat properly. He was the biggest and the strongest. He seemed to understand that he needed to survive. He ate quickly, and then watched over his siblings while they ate. Even at his young age, he was acting like a protector. Minho was more playful. Once he started feeling better, he wanted to explore everything. He would climb on Yuna's furniture, knock things off her desk, and get into places he should not be. Yuna had to reorganize her entire room to make it safe for him. Bora stayed close to Yuna. She did not like to be alone. When Yuna went to the bathroom, Bora would cry until she came back. When Yuna ate her meals, Bora sat on her lap. When Yuna worked on her reports, Bora curled up on her keyboard. They think you're their mother, Hana said during one of her visits. All three of them. I know, Yuna said. Is that possible? I'm human. They're Velkin. Hana pulled up information on her tablet. According to all our research, no. Velkins only bond with their own kind. They have a very strong sense of smell and identity. They should be able to tell you're not one of them. They should reject you, but they haven't. No. They haven't. Hana looked at the cubs with wonder in her eyes. I've been sending reports to xenobiologists back on Earth. They're very interested. This has never happened before. Yuna felt uncomfortable with that idea. They're not research subjects. They're just babies who lost their family. I know, don't worry. No one is going to take them from you. I'm just documenting what I observe. It could help us understand Velkins better. And maybe, she paused, maybe it could help us understand humans better too. Weeks passed. The cubs grew stronger. They were learning to walk properly now. Not just crawl. They were learning to play. Yuna's small cabin became their whole world. They did not know there was a ship outside. They did not know there was a galaxy full of stars. They only knew Yuna. One night, Yuna woke up to find all three cubs arranged around her on the bed. Tay was at her feet, facing the door. Minho was on her left side. Bora was curled against her chest. They had positioned themselves like guards. What are you doing? She asked softly. Tay lifted his head and looked at her. His eyes were serious, determined. He made a low sound in his throat. It was not a growl. It was something else. Something that sounded almost like a word. Yuna's translator device flickered on her bedside table. It was designed to interpret alien languages, but it had never worked with such young Velkins before. The screen showed a single word, asterisk protecting. Asterisk. Yuna's heart squeezed in her chest. These babies, these orphans who had lost everything, were trying to protect her. Her. The one who was supposed to be protecting them. She reached out and touched Tay's head gently. You don't have to protect me, she whispered, but Tay did not move. He stayed at her feet all night, watching the door. The other crew members started to notice the changes. When Yuna finally began returning to her duties on the bridge, the cubs came with her. She had no choice. They refused to be left alone. They cried and scratched at the door until she came back, so she brought them to the bridge. Captain Do-hun frowned at first, but he did not say anything. The cubs were well behaved. They sat near Yuna's station, watching everything with their big eyes. They did not make noise. They did not cause trouble. The crew began to accept them. Jinho, the young navigator, liked to bring them treats from the kitchen. The engineer, a quiet man named Sung-ho, built them toys from spare parts. Even Captain Do-hun, who pretended to be strict, sometimes let Bora sit on his lap during long meetings. "You've created a monster," Hana joked one day. "Now everyone on this ship is in love with them." Yuna smiled. "They're easy to love, but it was more than that. The cubs brought something to the ship that had been missing. Joy. Laughter. The crew of the Starfall had seen many dark things in their work. Dead ships. Lost lives. The cold emptiness of space. But the cubs reminded them of something important. Life was precious. Hope was real. Even in the darkest places, there could be light. 2 months after the rescue, the Starfall received a message from Velkin Space. The authorities had been informed about the cubs. They wanted them back. Yuna read the message with cold hands. Give up the cubs. Send them to a Velkin orphanage. Let them be raised by their own kind. It was the right thing to do. It was the logical thing to do. But when Yuna looked at the 3 cubs sleeping on her bed, she knew she could not do it. She went to Captain Do-hun's office. "I received the message," she said. "I know." The captain's face was unreadable. "What are you going to do?" "I want to keep them. I want to apply for adoption rights under the Galactic Guardianship Act." Do-hun was quiet for a long moment. "That act has never been used for cross-species adoption before. The legal process would be complicated. Expensive. It could take years. I don't care." Yuna's voice was steady. "They're my family now. I'm not giving them up." The captain studied her. Then, slowly, he smiled. "I thought you'd say that. I've already started the paperwork." Yuna blinked. "You, what?" "You're not the only one who loves those cubs, Lieutenant. The whole crew does. We'll fight for them, together." For the first time in months, Yuna felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. This is going to be a long battle." He paused. "But I think we're going to win." Yuna returned to her cabin. The cubs were awake now, waiting for her. Tae was standing at attention. Minho was bouncing with energy. Bora ran to her immediately and demanded to be picked up. Yuna held her close and looked at all 3 of them. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. "And neither are you." The cubs did not understand her words, but they understood her meaning. They pressed against her. Warm and alive. Full of trust. They were a family. Strange. Unexpected. Impossible. But a family all the same. 3 months had passed since the rescue. The cubs were growing fast. They were no longer the tiny, shaking creatures Yuna had found on that broken ship. They were strong now, healthy, full of life. Their fur was thick and shiny. Their eyes were bright with intelligence. Yuna woke up every morning to the feeling of warm bodies pressed against her. The cubs had their favorite sleeping spots. Tae always slept at her feet. Minho liked to curl up against her back. Bora slept on her pillow, her small nose almost touching Yuna's face. It was strange. Yuna thought. How quickly this had become normal. She could not remember what it felt like to sleep alone. She could not imagine waking up without the sound of soft breathing around her. But this morning was different. Yuna woke up before her alarm. Something felt wrong. She opened her eyes slowly, confused. The cubs were not in their usual positions. They were not sleeping at all. They were sitting beside her pillow. All 3 of them. In a perfect line. Tae was on the left. He sat straight and tall. His chest puffed out. Minho was in the middle. His body tense with focus. Bora was on the right, her golden eyes fixed on Yuna's face. "What?" Yuna started to say. Then Tay made a sound. It was a low growl, but not an angry growl. It was controlled, deliberate, like he was saying something important. Minho went next. His sound was higher, a series of short barks. He moved his head as he made the noise, looking left, then right, then at Yuna. Finally, Bora spoke. Her voice was the softest, a gentle whine that rose and fell like a song. She leaned forward and touched her nose to Yuna's cheek when she finished. Then all three cubs sat back and waited. Their tails wagged slightly. They looked proud, expectant. Yuna had no idea what was happening. She sat up slowly, careful not to disturb them. "What was that? What are you doing?" "Crive." The cubs just stared at her, still waiting. Yuna's translator device was on her bedside table. It had been picking up more and more of the cubs' communication lately. She grabbed it and checked the screen. The device had recorded the sounds. It was processing them. After a moment, words appeared. *Tay. Area check complete. No dangers in sleeping space. *. Minho. Sounds checked. No strange noises in the night. Air system working. *. Bora. Mother is breathing. Mother is warm. Mother is safe. Yuna read the words 3 times. Her hands were shaking. "The morning report," she whispered. She had read about this in her research on Velkans. In Velkan packs, the cubs had an important duty. Every morning, they had to report to the alpha of the pack. They told the alpha what they had observed during the night. Any dangers, any changes, any problems. It was a way for the cubs to contribute to the pack, to show they were valuable, to prove they were growing into proper pack members. And now, these 3 orphaned cubs had done this for Yuna. A human. Someone who was not even their species. They had given her their first morning report. Yuna felt tears running down her face. She did not try to stop them. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "Good report. Very good report." The cubs' tails wagged faster. They understood. They knew they had done well. Bora jumped into Yuna's lap and licked her face. Minho bounced around the bed with joy. Even serious Tay allowed himself a happy bark. Yuna hugged them all close. She could not believe what was happening. This was supposed to be impossible. Everything she had read said Velkans only did this for other Velkans. They only recognized Velkan alphas. They could not accept other species into their pack structure. But these cubs did not know that. They did not care about rules or science or what was supposed to happen. They only knew that Yuna had saved them. Yuna had fed them. Yuna had kept them safe and warm. To them, that made her their alpha, their mother, their pack. She had to tell someone. Yuna got dressed quickly, the cubs following her every movement. They seemed to understand that something important had happened. They stayed close to her as she walked through the ship's corridors. Hana was in the medical bay, working on her reports. She looked up when Yuna entered. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Hana said. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Yuna's voice was still unsteady. She explained what the cubs had done. She showed Hana the translator's recording. She described how they had sat in perfect formation, waiting for her response. Hana's eyes grew wider with every word. This is incredible," she said. "Yuna, do you understand what this means? They've fully accepted you. Not just as a caretaker, as their alpha, their pack leader. I know. This has never been recorded before. In all of galactic history, no Velkan has ever accepted a non-Velkan as their alpha. Their instincts are too strong. Their sense of identity is too fixed." Hana shook her head in wonder. "But these cubs, they've created something new. Something that shouldn't exist." "Problem." Yuna looked down at the cubs. They were sitting at her feet, watching the conversation with curious eyes. They did not understand the words. but they could tell this was an important moment. "They're not just cubs anymore," Yuna said. "They're my family. My pack. Yes, they are." Hana smiled, her eyes shining. "You know, I've been studying xenobiology for 20 years. I've seen amazing things. But this is different. This is proof that love can cross any boundary, any species, any difference." The news spread quickly through the ship. Everyone wanted to hear about the morning report. Everyone wanted to see the cubs perform their duty. But the cubs only did it for Yuna. When others tried to get them to repeat the behavior, they just looked confused. This was not for anyone else. This was only for their alpha. Every morning after that, the routine was the same. Yuna would wake up to find the cubs sitting beside her pillow. Tay would report on the physical security. Minho would report on sounds and environmental factors. Bora would report on Yuna herself. Sometimes the reports were simple. Asterisk. No dangers. All quiet. Mother safe. Asterisk. Sometimes they were more detailed. Asterisk. Strange smell from air system. Jinho walked past door at night. Mother moved in sleep, but did not wake. Asterisk. The cubs were paying attention to everything. They were learning. They were growing. And every day, they became more and more a part of Yuna's life. Yuna started to respond to the reports in a formal way. She would nod to each cub after they spoke. She would say, "Report accepted," in a clear voice. She would touch each of their heads gently. The cubs seemed to appreciate this structure. It made them feel important. It made them feel like they belonged. One morning, something different happened. Bora's report was longer than usual. The translator struggled to keep up. Asterisk, mother safe. Mother warm. But mother's heart is beating different. Mother is worried about something. Cubs want to help. Cubs will protect mother from worry. Asterisk. Yuna stared at the translation. Bora was right. She had been worried. The legal battle for custody of the cubs was getting more complicated. There were hearings and documents and endless waiting. She had been trying to hide her stress from the cubs. She had not wanted to upset them, but Bora had noticed anyway. The little cub had been watching, listening, sensing, and she had reported it. Just like she reported everything else. Yuna gathered all 3 cubs into her arms. She held them tight. "You're right," she admitted. "I am worried. But you don't need to protect me from that. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. As a pack." The cubs pressed against her. Tay made a sound of determination. Minho whined softly in support. Bora licked her chin. They did not fully understand the situation. They did not know about courts or laws or custody battles, but they understood one thing perfectly. Their alpha was in trouble, and they would stand by her no matter what. That night, Yuna fell asleep surrounded by warmth. The cubs arranged themselves around her in their protective formation. And for the first time in weeks, she did not feel afraid. She had a pack now, a family, and together, they could face anything. The morning report had become more than a ritual. It had become a promise. A declaration of loyalty that crossed the boundaries of species and biology, and everything that was supposed to be impossible. And it was only the beginning. The message came from Central Medical Command. They were sending a specialist to the Starfall. Dr. Ji-hoon, one of the leading experts in xenobiology, wanted to study the cubs in person. Yuna did not like this idea. "He's not going to take them," she said to Captain Do-hoon. "I won't allow it. He's not coming to take them," the captain assured her. "He's coming to help. His testimony could make a difference in your custody case. If he confirms that the cubs have truly bonded with you, it will be harder for the Velkan authorities to argue that they should be separated." Yuna still felt nervous. She had heard stories about scientists who treated alien creatures like objects to be studied. She did not want anyone treating her cubs that way, but she agreed to the visit. She had no choice. The custody hearing was in 2 weeks. She needed every advantage she could get. Dr. Ji-hoon arrived on a shuttle 3 days later. He was younger than Yuna had expected, maybe 40 years old. He had kind eyes and a gentle voice. He carried a small bag of equipment and nothing else. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said when they met. "Thank you for agreeing to see me. I know this must be difficult." "It is," Yuna said honestly. "These cubs are my family. I don't want them treated like test subjects." Ji-hoon nodded. "I understand. And I promise you, that is not why I'm here." He looked at the cubs, who were hiding behind Yuna's legs. "I'm here because what you've achieved is remarkable. Possibly the most important discovery in the history of human-alien relations. I want to document it properly, and I want to help you keep your family together." Something in his tone made Yuna relax slightly. He seemed genuine. He seemed to truly care. "All right," she said. "What do you need from us?" Ji-hoon asked to observe their daily routine. He did not want to interfere or change anything. He just wanted to watch and record. He set up small cameras in Yuna's quarters, with her permission. He took notes on his tablet constantly. He asked questions, but he never pushed. The cubs were suspicious of him at first. Tae growled whenever Ji-hoon got too close. Minho watched him with wary eyes. Bora refused to come out from behind Yuna, but Ji-hoon was patient. He kept his distance. He spoke in soft tones. He never made sudden movements. Slowly, over several days, the cubs began to accept his presence. On the 5th day, Ji-hoon asked to witness the morning report. Yuna woke up at her usual time. The cubs were already in position beside her pillow. They did not seem bothered by Ji-hoon's camera in the corner of the room. They had gotten used to it. Tae began his report. His voice was strong and confident now, much different from the weak growls he had made when he first started. The translator picked up every word. Perimeter secure. Checked all corners of sleeping space. No threats detected. New human observed but does not smell like danger. Pack is safe. Minho went next. Air quality good. Temperature stable. Ship sounds normal. Heard crew member walking past at 4th hour. No concerns. Finally, Bora. Mother slept well. Mother's heart rate is calm. Mother is not worried today. Cubs are happy because mother is happy. Yuna smiled and touched each of their heads. Report accepted. Well done, all of you. The cubs wagged their tails and scattered to begin their morning play. Ji-hoon sat in the corner, completely still. His face was pale. "Doctor?" Yuna asked. "Are you all right?" Ji-hoon looked at her with something like awe in his eyes. "I've read your reports. I've seen the translator logs. But seeing it in person..." He shook his head slowly. "This is unprecedented. Do you understand what they're doing? They're reporting to me, like they would to a pack alpha." "Yes. But it's more than that." Ji-hoon stood up and began pacing. His calm demeanor had cracked. He was excited now, speaking fast. "In Velkan society, the morning report is sacred. It's a ritual that has been practiced for thousands of years. Cubs who perform it are declaring their absolute loyalty to the alpha. They're saying, 'I trust you with my life. I will serve you. I will protect you.' It's the foundation of their entire social structure." "I know this," Yuna said. "But you don't know what it means that they're doing it for you." Ji-hoon stopped pacing and looked at her directly. "The morning report requires something called pack recognition. It's a biological process. The cubs' brains must identify someone as a valid alpha before they can perform the ritual. Every study we've done shows that pack recognition is species-specific. It should only trigger for other Velkans. Then how? That's what's so incredible." Ji-hoon sat down heavily in a chair. "Their brains have done something new. Something that should be genetically impossible. They've recognized you a human as a valid alpha. Their neurology has adapted. It's changed to accommodate a cross-species bond." Yuna felt dizzy. "What does that mean? Are they damaged somehow?" No, quite the opposite." Ji-hoon leaned forward. "They're evolved. They've grown beyond the limitations of their species. Their love for you was so strong that their brains literally rewired themselves to make it work. He laughed, a sound of pure joy. Don't you see? This proves that emotional bonds can overcome biological boundaries. It proves that connection and love are more powerful than genetics. Yuna looked at the cubs. Tay was wrestling with Minho on the floor. Bora was trying to catch a toy that hung from a string. They looked so normal. So happy. It was hard to believe they had done something revolutionary. This will change everything, Ji-hoon said. The scientific community will be stunned. The diplomatic community will be forced to reconsider their assumptions about species relations. And your custody case? He smiled. Your custody case just became much simpler. How? Because I'm going to testify that these cubs have formed a permanent neurological bond with you. Separating them now wouldn't just be cruel, it would be dangerous. Their brains have adapted to recognize you as their alpha. If you were taken away, they could suffer serious psychological damage, maybe even physical damage. Yuna felt hope rising in her chest. I'll say it because it's true. Ji-hoon pulled out his tablet and began typing. I need to prepare my testimony. I need to compile all the evidence. The translator logs, the behavioral observations, everything. He paused and looked at her. Lieutenant, you've done something amazing, not just for these cubs, but for all of us. You've proven that humans can connect with alien species in ways we never thought possible. Yuna did not know what to say. She had not done anything special. She had just loved 3 small creatures who needed her. She had just been there for them when they had no one else. But maybe that was the point. Maybe love itself was the special thing. Maybe the simple act of caring for someone, regardless of differences, was enough to change the universe. That night, Yuna sat in her cabin with the cubs piled on her lap. Dr. Ji-hoon had left to prepare his testimony. The hearing was 1 week away. Everything was about to change. Bora looked up at her with those golden eyes. The translator on Yuna's wrist picked up a soft sound. Asterisk. Mother is thinking big thoughts. Asterisk. Yuna laughed. Yes, I am. How do you always know? Asterisk. Cubs know mother. Cubs feel what mother feels. Asterisk. Tay added his voice. Asterisk. Pack is strong. Pack will win. Pack stays together. Asterisk. Minho bounced in agreement. Asterisk. No worry, no fear. We are Pack. Asterisk. Yuna held them close. They were right. Whatever happened at the hearing, they would face it as a family. They would face it as a pack. And somehow, she knew they would win. The morning report had become famous now. Scientists across the galaxy were talking about it. News networks wanted interviews. Researchers wanted data. The impossible bond between a human woman and 3 Velkin cubs had captured everyone's imagination. But to Yuna, it was still just her morning routine. It was still just 3 small voices telling her they loved her, in their own special way. And that was all that mattered. The hearing room was cold and white. It was a neutral space, chosen because it belonged to no species. Representatives from the Galactic Council sat behind a long table. Humans, Velkins, members of other species Yuna did not recognize. They all watched her with careful eyes. Yuna stood at the front of the room. The cubs were beside her, sitting in their perfect formation. They had refused to be left behind. When Yuna had tried to leave them on the ship, they had cried so loudly that the whole crew had heard. So she had brought them. She had no choice. The lead judge was a Velkin elder. His fur was gray with age, and his eyes were sharp like knives. His name was Kyung, and he had been overseeing cross-species disputes for 50 years. This hearing will now begin, Kyung announced. The matter before us is the custody of 3 Velkin cubs, currently in the care of Lieutenant Yuna of the Terran Rescue Corps. He looked at Yuna without expression. The Velkin government has requested that these cubs be returned to Velkin space and placed in an appropriate care facility. A Velkin official stepped forward. She was young and formal. These cubs belong with their own kind. It is not natural for them to be raised by a human. They need Velkin care. Velkan guidance. A human cannot provide what they need to become proper members of our society. Yuna wanted to argue, but she waited. Dr. Ji-hoon had told her to be patient. Their turn would come, the official continued. We recognize that Lieutenant Yuna saved these cubs' lives. We are grateful. But gratitude does not change biology. These cubs are Velkan. They must be raised as Velkan. Elder Kyung nodded slowly. Thank you. Lieutenant Yuna, you may present your response. Yuna stepped forward. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was racing. I am not asking to make these cubs human, she said. I know they are Velkan. I know they have needs I am still learning to understand. But I also know that they have chosen me. I did not force this bond. They created it themselves. She turned to Dr. Ji-hoon, who stood nearby. I have brought an expert witness who can explain what has happened between us. Ji-hoon approached the council table. He bowed respectfully to Elder Kyung and began to present his findings. He explained the morning report ritual. He showed the translator logs. He described the neurological changes he had observed in the cubs' brain scans. These cubs have achieved something unprecedented, Ji-hoon concluded. They have formed a pack recognition bond with a non-Velkan. Their brains have literally changed to make this possible. Separating them from Lieutenant Yuna now would cause serious harm, possibly permanent harm. The council members murmured among themselves. Elder Kyung's expression was unreadable. This is interesting, Kyung said finally. But I must ask, how do we know this bond is real? How do we know it is not simply attachment born from trauma? The cubs were orphaned. They may have clung to the first caretaker they found. With respect, Elder, Ji-hoon said, trauma attachment does not cause neurological changes. What I observed is biological, physical, real. The cubs' brains recognize Lieutenant Yuna as their alpha. This is not temporary. This is permanent. Kyung turned to Yuna. I would like to see this morning report for myself. Can the cubs perform it here? Now? Yuna hesitated. The cubs had never done their report anywhere except her cabin. She did not know if they would be comfortable doing it in this strange, cold room with so many unfamiliar eyes watching them, but she had to try. She knelt down beside the cubs. Can you show them? She asked softly. Can you show them what you do every morning? The cubs looked at her. Then they looked at the council. Tae's fur was bristled with nervous energy. Minho was trembling slightly. Bora pressed against Yuna's leg. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Tae stood up straight. He lifted his head and looked directly at Elder Kyung. His voice came out strong and clear. Asterisk. This place is strange, many unknown creatures, but Pack Alpha is here. Pack is safe. No threat will touch our mother while we stand. Asterisk. Minho went next, his voice shaking but determined. Asterisk. Cubs are scared. Cubs do not know this place. But cubs will be brave. Cubs will show the truth. Mother is good. Mother is kind. Mother is ours. Asterisk. Finally, Bora. Her small voice rang out in the silent room. Asterisk. We did not choose to lose our first family. But we choose this family. We choose Mother. We choose Pack. This is not mistake. This is love. The translator displayed the words on a screen for everyone to see. The room was absolutely silent. Yuna looked at Elder Kyung. The old Velkan's eyes were wet. He was crying. Actual tears were rolling down his furred cheeks. In all my years, Kyung said quietly, I have never seen cubs perform a morning report with such devotion, such clarity. He looked at Yuna, with something new in his eyes. Respect. Understanding. These cubs have not been deceived. They have not been confused. They know exactly who you are, Lieutenant. And they have chosen you freely. He turned to the rest of the council. I move that custody of these cubs be permanently granted to Lieutenant Yuna of the Terran Rescue Corps. Any objections? The Velkan official who had argued against Yuna was silent. The other council members said nothing. There were no objections. Motion passed, Kyung announced. These cubs are now legally the family of Lieutenant Yuna. May their pack bond continue to grow stronger. Yuna felt her knees go weak. She sat down on the floor, and the cubs immediately piled into her lap. They were licking her face, making happy sounds, their tails wagging wildly. "We won," she whispered. "We won." The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The story of a human woman and 3 Velkin cubs captured the hearts of billions. People from hundreds of worlds watched the footage of the morning report. They read about the bond that had crossed species lines. They cried and laughed and talked about what it meant. Some said it was a miracle. Some said it was evolution. Some said it was simply love, the most powerful force in the universe. Whatever it was, it changed things. New laws were proposed. New research was funded. New conversations began about the nature of family and connection, and what it really meant to belong. Yuna did not care about any of that. She just cared about her cubs. 6 months later, the Starfall returned to normal operations. Yuna was still the rescue team leader. The cubs were still her family. Every morning, they still gave their report. But things had changed, too. The cubs were bigger now. Tay was almost full-grown, a strong young Velkin with silver fur and fierce eyes. Minho had become an expert at tracking sounds and smells. Bora had developed a gift for reading emotions, always knowing what Yuna was feeling before Yuna knew herself. One morning, Yuna woke up to find the cubs in their usual positions. But there was something different about the way they sat. They seemed more serious, more formal. Tay spoke first. Mother. We have discussed among ourselves. We have something important to say. Yuna sat up, confused. What is it? Minho continued. We are not cubs anymore. We are growing. Soon, we will be adults. Bora finished. But we will never stop being your pack. We will never stop giving morning reports. We will never stop protecting you. This is our choice. This is our promise. Forever. Yuna felt tears streaming down her face. She gathered all 3 of them into her arms, even though Tay was almost too big to hold. I love you, she said. All of you. Forever. The cubs pressed against her. Their hearts beat with hers. Their warmth surrounded her. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless darkness of space. There was so much out there, so many worlds, so many species, so many mysteries waiting to be discovered. But in this small cabin, on this small ship, there was something more important than all of it. There was family. There was love. There was a bond that had proven stronger than biology, stronger than distance, stronger than anything the universe could throw at it. The morning report continued. Day after day, year after year, a simple ritual that meant everything. And somewhere in the galaxy, others were watching. Other humans. Other aliens. Other lost souls looking for connection. They saw the story of Yuna and her cubs, and they wondered, if this is possible, what else might be? The answer was simple. Anything. Anything was possible. All you had to do was love.